Welcome back to the Two Comma Club podcast. Today, Chris and I are joined by Armin. I'm really excited about this episode here. Armin is huge in the internet space, and I'm really excited to hear about what he's got going on in faith and his entrepreneurial journey and everything that he's done in his life. So, Armin, if you could kind of give everybody a quick recap of the journey that you've been through and where you're at today, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Honored to be here. Always love to have any opportunity to share the journey, because through each other, I think we get to, in a way, get a permission, to open up in life. And I was a part of this group just this past Sunday, and I heard some people share some things. I'm like, wow, I didn't know it's possible for people to share this kind of stuff. So it's great what you're doing. This is in many ways it's God's work. Podcast interviews, like when we can share each other's stories, we all kind of get a chance to go, hey, I've been through that. I thought I was alone. Or really, I thought those things too. I thought I was crazy. And so, it's good. The shortest version of my story is I started out in the seminar space, being a Tony Robbins wannabe. I was really good at it. I got the clap and everything down to a T. So I was this guy on stage for 3 years. I was doing a lot of transformation seminars. I was living my dream. I didn't know how to do business, so I didn't really make much profit off those events. But out of the 800,000 or so we made in the first 3 years of running events, we changed a lot of lives, and that was really cool. I even got to tour Malaysia at one point, and my speaking took me some places. But then COVID hit, right? And then I saw really average-looking people online making millions and millions of dollars, and that was the selling point for me. I'm like, my ego was like, if these guys could do it, I could do it. So I got really obsessed with that, and by 2020, I decided I'm going to go high ticket online, turn my seminar business into an online business. And it took a whole year to really set it up. That was the first year we ever did. We did like 200 grand or something in the first year. My first 30K a month, I learned ads, webinars. I learned all this stuff. And I had all this background in events, curriculums, coaching. So I was good at that. I just didn't know how to sell online. So I learned everything I could. And by the end of that year, I'd done like $100,000 a month. I'm like, all right, I made it. This is it. And that's a whole story in and of itself if you have time to share it, because that all happened out of faith. Like, it was ridiculous how it was the worst month. It started as the worst month, ended the best month, and it was like, it made no sense. But that was like when I started realizing, damn, there's an invisible power that's just all around us, that if we speak to and talk with and try to get help, like it makes things happen that makes no sense. It's a logical growth. So our next year, that was my first $1 million year. We crossed. We did like 1.7, something like that. And that was my promise to myself. By 25, I want to be the first millionaire in my family. So I did it. And I did everything you shouldn't do right after making $1 billion. I started traveling. Some people are not going to like this. My business had momentum. I had a team. Everything was good. We just had like $300,000 or $400,000 a month. I'm like, yeah, organic. But then I'm like, I went to LA. I met a really beautiful girl there who was like, like everyone wanted her. And I was confused. I'm like, you want me? What? So it was just crazy that I ended up with her. So I had a mentor at the time who had done 2 billion in sales. I was living with him in LA, through my cousin and in connections. And he was like, by the end of the year, I'd lost everything I made. Quite physically, I had like $100,000 and some in my account left out of the 1 million or so I made, 1.7. So to me, that was broke, because I'm like, I'm spending a lot of money. But at that time, I'm like, I hit this bad low. And he's like, don't worry, man. You did exactly what you're not supposed to do. You got rich. He's like, you made it. You delegated everything. You got a hot blonde girlfriend, and then you effed off. And I'm like, oh, that is what I did, didn't it? Like, I didn't try to. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
So that relationship, me trying to delegate everything at the same time, remove myself, like I was just being really irresponsible. I kind of stunted all the growth. It went from like $300,000-$400,000 like crazy month to like I'm refunding 100,000 because I'm just improperly selling people into my mastermind. It was a shit show. By the end of that year, my first $1 million year, it was like I was miserable. I'm like, wait, what happened? So I'm like, you know what? I started surrendering around that time. I'm like, it's all right. I broke up with the girl. I'm like, I wasn't ready for this. I took over the business again. I'm like, I'm going to be responsible with this. And that next year was the biggest year I had, was at 2.6 or something like that. I moved to Miami. That was way worse. That was a way worse decision. I went from LA to Miami. I'm like, LA really like distracted me. Miami's 100 times worse. It's like the land of egos. It's like you want to go there and just get lost in stimulation, happiness, and chasing like things that you want. Like that's the ego's heaven land there. So I I got all the girls I want. I got the nice condos in the middle of Brickell. I shipped my car. I had a sports car in Canada. I shipped it over. So I was just like, I was living my dream life there. I was meeting all these really cool people, invited to yacht parties. Like I was in the middle of that, that scene. And but that year I also got ripped. Like I had the superhero body, everything. I just achieved everything I wanted, and that's why I was so confused that at the end of that year I was more miserable than I've ever been. That was when I started asking the deeper questions. Like, wait, hold on a second. By the end of that year, a whole thing happened. I had to end up in Mexico. I couldn't go back to the States. Now I'm sitting in an $8,000 a month villa with a housemaid with 20 plus employees, the most employees I have, with hundreds of clients, like way more than I've ever had, in my superhero physique. And like I'm like, my life is amazing, right? Why do I feel depressed? This doesn't make sense. And so at least I had a little bit of awareness where I asked them, like, hold on a second. This has to be a joke. There has to be something wrong here. Because last year, at the end of the year, I was miserable. But I had less money, less employees, less clients, smaller houses, less things in my life, less fitness. Wait, how do I have more, but I don't feel any better? In fact, I feel worse. That was the opening, man. Right there, I'm like, wow, that was at the end of 2022. That was the spiritual awakening. Because one day I woke up and I just couldn't work. Like I couldn't pretend to not to be happy anymore. Because I was, you show up, and I was talking about this with my friend. My first ever client was one of my closest friends. He's my best friend, and he went off making $50K a month after working with me for years, and he's quitting his business now. So he's like, fuck this coaching stuff. Like he left. Why? Because he said, you know what happened, dude? He's like, same thing happened to you, same thing happened to me. He goes, there's a point, at least in business coaching, when you're selling business coaching. Okay. And I don't mean to demotivate anyone doing it. There's a right way to do it. There really is. Like I'm back in business now, but it's like God took me there. I didn't go there through my ego. I'm there through like surrender and service. So there's a real peaceful way to do good business. But the way I did it back then, I was the wrong way. And this is how he did it. You get caught up selling the lifestyle, right? You're like selling it, like make money. Here's how you do it, blah, blah, blah. But then there's a point in your journey where you yourself need to explore, like, who am I? Like, what is this? What's life? But you can't, because the business is attached to who you think you're being and who people think you are. And so now here's the dilemma you get into. You're making money, but then you start losing money because the business you have to, but you're not allowed to lose money in the online business space. That's the problem. You're not allowed to, right? So no one should know about that. So now you're finding yourself on coaching calls, on sales calls, and on videos, portraying to be something you were, right? You maybe were, or you were, but like not currently. It's not your current truth. And now you start feeling that dissonance, and then you start feeling like weird about it. Then you feel weird. That starts to groom into like you feel like a disconnect, like a disgust, like ugh. And then you try to distract yourself with more women, more drugs, more this, more that. It just doesn't work, So eventually, it just starts taking away at your heart, and you start to feel bad about who you are. And that's what happens. And people burn out because they're like, I'm not allowed to just like make mistakes, or I can't make money if I don't tell you I make more money than you, right? So I have to tell you I make more money than you. And so I have to keep finding ways to bend the truth, right? I never lied. I never said I make money I don't make, but I'll like zoom out and go, yeah, last year we did this, but they don't know that I was maybe losing money that month. And so it's like a lot of people do this. They get stuck in this kind of hide it all, like kind of bend it so it doesn't look too bad. And so eventually it just takes a toll on you. And he's like, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm like, dude, I couldn't do it anymore. I woke up one day, I'm like, I'm not gonna pretend anymore, guys. My clients, like, I was just open to them. I'm like, yeah, this is where I'm at. So you guys need help with traffic? All right, let's talk about it. And so it was freeing, but that's not how you win in that game, is it? So it's not designed for you to live in truth, and that's what sucks, right? At least that way that it's done, that way that it's done. It's not designed for you to really have peace within. It's only designed for you to create a life where you're kind of an imposter in it, and it's inevitable. I don't care what you say. There's going to be points in your business or in your life where when you're selling lifestyle, your lifestyle itself isn't good because you're undergoing some reconstruction in yourself, and you're not allowed to share that. That's when you're going to start feeling the weight of this pressure of not lying, but having to portray a truth that isn't really true, but it's kind of true. And now you have an issue with God because you're saying, you're like, you can see all this, right? Because no one else knows, but like, I can't lie here. So that's what happened. That was the beginning of my journey. I was 2 years ago now, the end of 2022. So it'd be like maybe over 2 years. And that was when everything starts to, like, my whole life started changing. By the end of that year, next year, I closed down the businesses. I thought I was going to do a sales school, spiritual thing. And even that, I spent 8 months building. We launched it. We made like 70, 80 grand or something in 2 months. And then I shut it down. I'm like, I'm not doing another one like this. And then the real surrender experiment happened. So as of today, I'm at 302 days of documenting every day of my life as I genuinely like went at, I'm going to have nothing in my life to work towards. And so starting 302 days ago, I'm like, I'm going to change my life. 30 days into it, I'm like, I have no business anymore. Like I closed down my partnerships with Think and Grow Rich, my own businesses. I closed down the school. I had nothing left. Like for the first time in 10 years, I quite generally had nothing to work towards, no business, no goal, no vision. This is the vice president of Think and Grow Rich at the time. I'm like, I had no vision, no definite purpose. I was just open. I'm like, you know what, God, I'm going to let you show me what life can be. I'm going to get out of the way. And dude, wow, I wish I'd done this sooner. This is a whole nother different level of living, dude. Just living in surrender is whew, like it's delicious. So I was gonna give you some kudos, John, because I saw one of your videos where you made a video and you're like, right now I'm broke, I'm here, and I'm at the beginning of my journey. So it's like we did something similar there. I kind of had my own version of that, and it's a beautiful thing you're doing. Documenting your life every day is like, so good. Anyways, that's a long version of a short story. So
Appreciate it. Yeah, that's amazing
I love
insights.
that. I think the good news is it is good to be honest and genuine with people. And if you can lead with that, we talk about that a lot about vulnerability and what that looks like, and then being genuine. And I think you just like you said, you be honest with God. Ultimately, I mean, you can hide from a lot of people, a lot of things, but at the end of the day, I mean, you can't be congruent with who you are and then be somebody different. You just can't do it. You can do it to a level or to a point, but you just can't continue to. So I love that. I appreciate what you're saying. I watched a lot of your videos. Some of your stuff, I'll be honest with you, I agree with. Some I don't agree with. Everybody's trying to find their way, so I get
yeah.
it. One of the things the show I love is called The Chosen. I know you enjoy that as well.
Great show.
And I think it's a great show. Obviously, it's not 100% accurate to biblical context, but man, it is a great program, and it just expands people and shows people something different. For me, it's a granular level in character. I think it just puts character to people. Just like you said, you can't be one way, or have one way you're doing things and be incongruent with who you are. So what's that kind of what like? So obviously, some of these things shifted for you, and you kind of had that hole, that God-shaped hole, and you kind of come to find that. What are some of the things that have been super transformational for you? Like, what has come out of this? What have been some of the benefits you didn't think would be a benefit that have come out of your journey and what you're doing now, if you don't mind us sharing?
If you want to save time on watching all the episodes, but still get all the gold nuggets that we find from interviewing these 7, 8, and 9 figure entrepreneurs, then you can get all of that inside of the 2 Comma Club newsletter. Just go to 2ccnewsletter.com and subscribe.
Wow. Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Oh, it's loaded. Just being honest.
No. It's a great question. I'm saying it's just there's so many.
Mm. What's one of
And
the
we're
biggest
talking.
takeaways? I guess I would say
Yeah,
really
of
just
course. Yeah, yeah. I'm mindful of time. So, um, I'll give you the biggest one. And we're talking about surrender, right? Like living in this different way.
yeah.
There's a lot of people think surrender. They go, that's weakness, like giving up. And I'm like, no. Well, if you look at it, the quite literal sense of the metaphor, if you're in battle, right, with an enemy, and you surrender, it's a bad thing because you're giving up. But I always look at it as like, what if on the other side it's not an enemy, it's God.
Mhm.
So really, who you're surrendering to is what's great, best for you. It's like your own fate. It's you and God out of contract. It's like, hey, this is what really is going to bring my soul to life. Okay, well, stop fighting me. That's really what it is. So surrender becomes the greatest thing you could do. And for me, the biggest transformation from surrender is realizing that if you get out of the way, life is already designed to perfectly unfold. So any imperfection in life is caused by your own interference with it. And that's the greatest thing I've learned. I was saying this to my family yesterday. I'm like, it's so weird. I walked away from the high ticket business, right? The high ticket coaching world, the whole world of that. And I'm like, I'm done with this. At some point I thought I'll be, a prophet walking around in India, like healing people or something. We all go through that phase when you go through this kind of stuff. So I outgrew. I'm like, nah, I'm good. But God like brought me right back into business 10 times deeper and just like on a serious upgrade. And to give you an example, now I work with a friend. I'm an equity owner in a business. And this just came into my reality. Like I didn't chase this. I didn't ask for it. I didn't even know I could do this. But I'm head of growth for a company that's franchising globally one of their businesses. So I'm tasked to design an entire franchise development training program, which is just a fancy way of saying a coaching program for companies. And I'm like, I didn't know this is possible. So I'm building this whole thing where we have to train franchisees to on how to, after they buy a franchise, how to kickstart the business, get really good, run to a 6-week battle plan boot camp, tell them how to get clients, tell them how to do this, but they got to sell like what the business's franchise model is. And I was just sitting there working on this. I'm like, and it's a generous salary. Like it's my first time. I'm going backwards. I went from like the online millionaire to like corporate job. I'm like, it's the reverse story, but I'm loving it. I'm like, this is great. I don't know why people knock this down, especially if you like who you work with and you like what you do, right?
Yeah.
So I like the friend I'm working with is a good friend of mine, and I'm building this, and I'm like, how did God know? How did God know that all those years of online business coaching would actually turn into something 100 times more valuable? Like if you guys take your online marketing skills and you go into the corporate world, oh my God, you're God walking around to them because they don't know the basics of online marketing. I'm like, this is normal stuff for me. I was teaching this to a 24-year-old to make $1 million, but like you guys in franchise worlds of corporate and companies and all these, they have no idea. They don't know how to communicate this. I'm like, so my skills in the coaching world is worth at best $2-3 million a year, right? In this world, it's worth anywhere from 20 to 30 to $100 million in an exit if I know what I'm doing with someone. I'm like, wow. So God, like I withdrew my mind from money. I didn't want to do any of this. And God somehow threw me deeper back into the world in business and giving me 100 times more work. I'm pretty much getting an MBA in business right now because the franchise business is a staffing business. So I have to learn everything about franchise development training, everything about the legal portion of like buying a business, and everything about organizational structure because the business is about staffing. So I'm like getting a whole degree. He was laughing. The person I'm working with, he goes, by the time we're done here, you're going to be an investment banker. I'm like, I didn't
Love
sign
that.
up for this. But see, surrender, it just takes you on that journey, that transformation. It takes you places you would never gone. It shows you who you really are, like what's really possible when you get out of the way. The smaller, Michael Singer says, the smaller I became, the self became, my ego became, the bigger my life became. It's powerful stuff,
Love
man.
that.
I love that so much, and there's so much to be said about that. I'm sure anybody who's taken any leaps of faith in their life or anything like that can talk about similar experiences where they felt called to be somewhere and do something, and maybe they had a massive obstacle in their way and they couldn't do it, and then they did it, and all of a sudden like there was a huge transformation that took place in their life and things of that nature. Um, so speaking on that, like the resistance that takes place during that period of time, how have you managed to deal with the resistance as you go through life and try to follow in God's path that He's laid out for you?
Mm. Mm. It's great questions. See, I looked at it as a fun challenge. See, if you're an entrepreneur, arguably you should have a superior advantage towards seeking truth, finding God, and living your life in truth because you develop skills as an entrepreneur. The average person doesn't because they don't put themselves to the test. We develop things like discipline. We develop consistency. We develop a relentless like work ethic, right? We develop a sense of obsession. We know how to get lost in something in a purpose. We develop a heightened sense of self. You would say we find a real big strength in being or who we are. All of those, if you actually, I'm not telling you to renounce it. There's a lot of people become that way. And it's like, I've met those people. They're not fully happy either. They're just out of the world of stress in a different world of fear, which is, I don't know what to do in my life. And where's God? So I'm like, I met someone last year who told me they've meditated for 40 or 50,000 hours, like tracked. And I'm like, you must be the Buddha. I mean, like at that level of meditation, you have to know something. And guess what, man? They had normal issues, insecurities, fears, didn't know what they're doing in their life, had no faith in themselves to take action. I'm just like, this makes zero sense. So I thought meditation is the key. It's not, it's a part of it, but no amount of meditation, if done to avoid truth, to avoid the growth of life, right? The really real active hard work of like developing your relationship with God and with yourself, it is not going to do it for you. So there's like the opposite side, right? The people who are like run from the world. It's like those people are just no different than poor people that are living in poverty who don't even want to go after a goal. It's the same thing. It's just different language. So I developed all these skills. I was a machine, a productivity machine, like down to the science. My performance was a science to me. So all I did when I started surrendering, obviously my ego was bitching and screaming. It's like, no, we need this, we need that. Don't do this. Don't let this go. Blah, blah, blah. And so I looked at it as you're no different than the discipline I had to have to wake up and work when I didn't want to go to the gym when I was tired. I'm like, those moments where you exercised your willpower against the mind's bitching and kicking, right, and screaming, I used it though going inward. And so all I did was turn all my outward goals, the chasing of acquiring, attaining success, into attaining truth within. So it was the same level of work ethic. And a lot of people miss this point. It still took a lot of work ethic, but towards God, not towards my own ego. And so it's funny in a weird way. There's a good movie called The Peaceful Warrior, one of my favorite movies. And the short version, I'm not going to ruin it. He was an Olympic athlete. He broke his leg. He couldn't, win the medal. He wanted to win the medal, and he found this guru. The guru started teaching him how to, get better at it. And then by the time the guru was done with him, he's like, I don't even want to be the Olympics anymore. He's like, I don't care anymore. My ego's out of the way. He goes, great. Now it's time to go back to the Olympics. He's like, what? Why would you do that? Why? I just let it all go. He goes, because now that you don't need the medal, you can actually play the game. I'm like, whoa. Like, that's pretty deep. So I looked at it as that. Like, once I let go of the ego, I can actually be good at what I do in business, right? And actually serve. And so I just took all that energy outward and I went inward. And that resistance that would come up, I just saw it as my opponent and I had fun with him. So my ego still to this day, it doesn't even have a corner of inside me that I don't know where it is. Like, I've studied this guy so well. There is not 1 inch that is hidden behind me anymore. My blind spots are minimal. Like, I've found so many. I'm like, if I still have more, holy crap. But for sure, there is like very minimal left. I know all my patterns. I know all my pet peeves. I know all my triggers. They're all gone. They're like 99% gone. And I'm like freaking out. Like, I'm only 28. Like, there's a whole life ahead of me still. And I already got all this stuff out of me. Like, what's going to happen? So now I understand, like, when you give your life to God, like, you really do go beyond imagination. I mean,
Yeah,
I could never even understand
yeah,
how much I can be growing. Like, I'm like blissfully living right now. I'm like, I didn't even know you could be this happy, this peaceful, this joyful. So the resistance is simple. It's your opponent. No different than when you're working against limiting beliefs and stuff. But you look at it as that's the ego. It's not the enemy. It's conditioned really shitty growing up. That's all. So you can retrain this thing, right? But it's like, first you got to know I'm not to this mind. Then you can decide, well, I'm the master of this mind. What do I do with it? Right? So it's a part of the human condition. So the resistance to me is just a fun opponent. That's all.
I love that. I think one of the things you keep saying is ego, and I want to equate that to pride. And I just think that's what the tool the deceiver has and the devil would, that's what it all boils down to. And once you can let go of that, you're not holding on to it. You don't have those, I always say, resentments, grudge. You have to be important. You have to be
Mm.
self evident. I mean, and you can see other people as broken. I don't know if that happened to you, but for me, man, just seeing people who are still in it and they're stuck in their mire and their own ego and pride, just how broken and hurt they are, and they don't even know it.
Mm.
And it really gives you empathy, and you feel bad. You're like, oh, they don't have freedom. They haven't tasted freedom the way you've
Mm.
tasted it or I've tasted it, and you can see how hurt they are. And they're just hanging on to the same trauma on repeat, just looping the same song in their head. And but it gives you some. Then it gives you empathy, and it gives you opportunity because you can help. Just by listening or just being there, being present, or being kind to them. I talk to people about this all the time. Well, I can't see it the way you see it. I go, well, it's not me though. You got to let go of who you are, your ego, and you can see others as hurt and broken. How have you seen that? Obviously, as you transform and people grow, you grow, but maybe people around you aren't growing the same way.
Mm.
How have you dealt with that, or how are you dealing with that with your relationships, your family, your friends, and things like that?
Yeah. Compassion. And compassion means when I see another human being, I don't see who they think they are. I don't see what they've been through. I don't see where they're going. I don't see what they believe. I don't see what they think. I don't see how they act. I see what they really are. It's God. That's God right there. Look, God's inside that human being. We're made in the image of this creator. We're all children of it, right? Okay, we're all children of him. So that means you're my brother? That means you're my sister? That means you're God and I'm one with God, you're one with God. Like, so I see the God in the person. And so then you start seeing the soul. But see, you can't do that if you haven't done that with yourself. So that's where it starts, right? And the amount of silence and inner stillness I've cultivated within myself from all the work, I can see through a mind and an ego. So that's why the triggers are also like very like they don't do anything to me anymore. Like I have nothing left because I look at it and I go, okay, well, you're trying to piss me off, but you can't fool me anymore. You know what I mean? Because like I know it's not real. Like you're doing that thing and I'm feeling this thing, but I'm like, all of this is made up. The mind just creating this. It's not. I mean, this is what Jesus came to teach, you know? And I'm like, he was the living embodiment. I was telling my mom this actually just the other day because she has some issues with family right now. And I'm like, Mom, you go to church every Sunday? I'm like, I live every day with Christ. I'm living every day with this man. I'm feeling the presence of the love of God unconditional. I'm like, Mom, you go to church. What's the point if in this moment, when you're really upset with someone in the family, you don't embody his life? I'm like, look at this. Here's a man, absolutely sinless, absolutely pure divine channel of God, right? This is even in the Eastern world you go, they look at him as the master of masters. Just so you understand, this guy, Jesus everywhere, okay? Yeshua would be his original name. This man was on a cross, being crucified for doing nothing but healing people, sharing truth, loving people. And he's still up there and he goes, God forgive them. They don't know what they do. I mean, that level of compassion. You're like, seriously? And here we are. Your mom said something to you and you can't even sleep. Like, come on. Like, so my entrepreneurial self is like challenge accepted. You know, I'll love everyone like Christ did. And so it's like, and you know, what's sad is a lot of religious people, not just Christians, they create this massive gap where they go, oh, it's unattainable. Like my mom's favorite line is, well, I'm not Christ. I'm like, you are. That's the point. That's what he came here to say. He's in you.
Yeah.
He's there. Don't speak these words. That's blasphemy. I'm not like God. I'm not Christ. That's blasphemy. Saying that I'm not as perfect as the one I'm with. Right? It's like, no, don't say that. But realize that's lie up here.
Yeah.
That's why you default to the reaction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But you
for
know,
me,
if
I
you
just
believe, but if you're like your mom believes that lie, or anybody, a lie believed is true for you though. You know, so if you believe that lie from the deceiver, it's true for you. You know, you just believe it and you
well,
accept
then
it.
all we could do is embody that kind of compassion. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I found that when you're a light in a dark room, people tend to start seeing.
Mm.
So they
I
just turn
like
on the
that.
light, you know. It's like I don't try to make her a certain way. I was giving her love as she was trying to throw
Sure.
me into the bus too. And I'm like, Mom, I was smiling at her like it's I love you anyways. And she goes, "Fuck," you know, like she sees that and like she's witnessing, experiencing that's possible.
Yeah.
Because you know when we break people's expectations and treat respond with love,
Yeah.
and they treat what they're when they're possessed by their ego, that's the freedom right there. The ego, shit. There's one right there. They're awake. We're gonna lose this one because that guy right there, that girl, they're like in love. Like, what do we do? It's like you can't do anything because we are greater than that voice within. We are greater than that voice in the head. We're greater. We just got to wake up to it. It's a realization process, not a learning process.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
So, everyone has their own relationship with their own individual egos, and I would consider with God as well. What are some of the things that you've been able to identify as ways of differentiating the voice of God from the voice of your ego and being able to identify where they come from?
Love this question. It's probably one of the few incredibly powerful wisdoms I was able to discover in my last 300 days of documenting everything. I mean, when you document that level of scientific study of yourself, you find, and my brain's like a course creator, you know, so it started to create a framework. And so I really came down with a discerning tool, a couple. And my favorite one that I give to people that you can do, even if you believe God, not believe, it doesn't really matter. It's actually quite a logical tool. It's quite a logical thing. You could prove it. I could prove it with you with exercises. Like in the moment, you're like, wait, he's right. What's that? So I'll give you the discerning tool. First of all, you have to know I'm not this mind. You have to know. If you don't know this, you're under the delusion still, right? So this ego, like one great disguise of it, Chris, is pride. Absolutely easy one. But there is ones that I discovered as ego that masks itself in that I would never have expected. You know, like I'm like, I didn't know that was ego. Like, wow, that felt good though. I thought that was God, and sometimes it really tricks me. And here's the thing: you got to understand, you have the greatest universal opponent, quite literally the shadow of God, would be the ego, right? So it's like that makes this guy, you know, this thing must be the best at tricking me, the greatest deceiver. So you have to get really good at discerning. So here's the first thing you have to do, just to realize you're not this mind. Just for a moment, pretend you're going to fast for the next 7 days right now. Pretend. I'm just like actually make yourself believe it, but no, you're not going to do it. And tell me what's the first thing that comes to your mind. What's the first thing you feel? Now, if you're anything like me or everyone else I've done this with, some of the first initial thoughts that come to your mind is either, if you've done it before, you go, yeah, whatever, let's go. If you haven't, it'll start saying, no, how are we going to do this? I'm hungry. We should eat now. Wait, before there's something saying don't do it. Now, if you pay really keen attention, your stomach might actually start growling. I mean, I have some people.
That real life is exactly how it just happened for me. Chris has fasted before. I haven't. That is exactly how it just happened for me.
I'm in the middle of a fast now. I do it every week now at this point, just to discipline this thing. Okay. So what's going on? This whole body and this mind is opposing this pretend decision I just made. Now, you just decided to pretend. I asked you to pretend, which means it's not real. You knew you weren't going to do it. You knew. So what is this other thing that was opposing you, defying you, the equal and opposite force to your decision? And it's dumb enough. It got caught right there because you knew it's not real, but it still showed up and did its thing. Oh, wait. Oh, we're not going to. Oh, okay. Whoo. So you caught it. Very easy way to go. That's the ego right there. That's the mind. Right? That's not you. It can't be you. If it was you, why would you trick yourself into feeling you knew what you weren't going to do it? And you could do that with anything. Be like, I'm not having sex for the next year. You know, what do you mean? Celibacy for a year? And again, if you're not used to this, try to do something with this that, you're usually attached to. You'll start getting really horny. I mean, like sexual thoughts will come to your head. So there's this equal and opposite force, okay? That's constantly in a balancing way, dualistically opposing you, okay? That's also the same phenomenon as when you set your mind to a goal and adversity hits you right away. It's like, what? So I'm in this men's group, right? And we're like doing celibacy for like the next 2 months. And I'm like, all right, that's easy. For me, it's quite easy. I don't really have much time for doing extracurricular stuff like that. So I don't really care. But sure enough, within the first 24 hours, I had 2 different girls on Instagram follow me, message me, beautiful girls. I'm like, wow. And then I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay, you got me. See, I ain't gonna fall for that one. And so I look at that, I'm like, oh, this little trickster. At this point, me and my ego dance. I'm like, you can always think you're that guy. It's like those movies, that guy who's always trying to trade, like Tom. What is it? What's a good one? Like Dora the Explorer, there's Sniper. Like there's always something like that. That's the archetype. It's like trying to, I got you this time, and it only gets power when you believe in it. So that's the first thing, is realize I'm not this voice in my mind. I'm not in the mind. The body responds to the mind. Mind doesn't respond to the body. So in other words, the mind could heal the body, but the body can't heal the mind. And so it's the mind that is the control center of this body. So when you feel something, like you feel growling in your stomach, it's because you have to think about something. And what are you thinking about? I need food. And the ego thinks like that. I need. But see, God within us is I am. It's a massive difference. Ego is always thinking I need, but soul is always saying I am. So there's a peace in not needing anything. That's really true wisdom within. Now, here's the discerning tool. Now that you know, okay, there's this thing inside me. How do I know when its voice is not God's voice and God's voice is not its voice? Well, first and foremost, I'll tell you a couple of things quickly. One, this is what I realized. God never excites you about things. Like he's never convincing you. This is an interesting one because in entrepreneurship, for me, I always thought the more I felt charged about something, that's divine. That's the thing. God wants me to do this, but it always ended at a dead-end road. But the things I was peaceful about, the things that just kind of unfolded, it was not boring, but it wasn't exciting like a flash. They had a sense of joy to them, and joy and excitement are very different feelings. Okay. Main difference is there is a reality that is true and one that is not. Anything outside of this now is not truth. It's a projection of the mind. So example, I can only be excited about tomorrow. I can't be excited about this moment right now, but I can only be joyful about right now. I can be in joy right now, but I can't be joyful about tomorrow. It makes no sense. So excitement is the projection of the mind. It's what's going to happen, which is not where God is. God is in this now with us. So God is the joy of now. I mean, when it quite later says rejoice, Christ and many of the prophets that came that were knowing God, they were walking in that present vortex of the now, the power of God in this moment. That's why they were not affected by people's minds and because it's all illusions. So first you have to realize that whenever you're excited about an idea, usually it's your mind selling you. And if you pay close attention to that voice, it's telling you, justifying all the reasons why it's a great idea. Now, I've done this with women. I don't know about you. I'm a single man. And so I've had some serious relationships. And every time I got into the ones that I'm like, this isn't the person for me, in the beginning, I had 1,000 reasons why this was going to be a great relationship. And then the best ones I ever had, I never expected it. Isn't that weird? Never expected. I'm like, what? So when you get out of the way again, it works well. So I give you an example, a metaphor. And this is the discerning tool of knowing how to logically literally go, that's my ego. So let's say I come and I say, guys, let's go rob a bank. I just watched Den of Thieves. I think it's a great idea. And you go, okay, well, no. You go, well, why not? You go, because, what do you mean, why not? It's wrong. Now I go, well, hear me out. You pay taxes. Banks are based off pretty much government money. It's like stealing your own money. I mean, it's not their money. Second of all, they have insurance. So, like, nobody actually loses money. They literally, quite literally have insurance that insure them if they get robbed. So, nobody actually loses money. No one's going to get hurt. Come on. We'll never get caught. I have someone on the inside. Now, as I'm making these examples, there's probably strong morale in some of you. Like, I'm not saying you're going to get persuaded that easily, but tell me honestly, is that mind of yours not already thinking, you know? And so with some people who have less will, have less self-awareness, they'll be easily persuaded. More people that are more conscious, they'll be like, no, because they see how that's just BS. Now, what do we call this? Justifying. Is justifications. All these reasons why it's a good idea. So this is a absolute, this for sure, as of right now, has not been disproved yet. Every single time I'm justifying something, it's because it's not the right decision. So this is a very logical discerning tool.
That's powerful.
When you have to justify it, it means it's not right. And right meaning it's not aligned with God's principles, your true nature. Now here's the opposite. Now this is where it gets really spooky. I love this stuff. Okay. Let's say we're walking down the street. We're walking, me, you, Chris, right? And this old lady falls on the ground, starts, oh, what do we do?
We race over to go help her.
We'll go over and help them. I say, well, wouldn't it be odd if I start justifying to help this old lady? Hey, guys, while she's there on the ground, I says, hey, guys, listen, I mean, we haven't helped someone in a while. I mean, if that was us, you don't have to do that, do you? You don't have to justify doing something that's obviously right? But this is where it gets really interesting. I go, well, I say, why are we going to help you? You go, because it's right. I go, how do you know? Every time I ask this question, people struggle. Like, I don't know, you just know. I don't know, what do you mean? How do you know to help a woman? What happened here? You know something, but you can't tell me how. This proves that you can know something you don't understand. So this is now separating the difference between knowing, which is where God resides in the wisdom of knowing, and the understanding of the mind, which is your ego's language. So unfortunately, the most division in the real culprit of our humanity having issues is too many things making sense to us. Because when it makes sense, we're not resting in the spirituality of knowing. Because then that's where truth lies. That's where God is, in the knowing, because you're already there. It's quite a paradox. It's like a reverse way of being. And even Christ said in The Chosen is a beautiful scene where, Peter was like, how am I supposed to forgive him? He's done this so many times. Like, you're supposed to forgive him 7 times over 7. It's like, and he goes, I don't get it. Because I don't understand. He goes, man makes it very difficult for himself by leaning on his own understanding. I'm like, you speak that, Christ, you speak that good word. But like, that's the truth. Because we don't understand, we slow down God's process. One of the greatest freedoms I have is detaching from understanding. I didn't need to anymore. That's a real surrender. I'm like, I don't need to understand how this is all working. I just know it's beautiful, it's perfect, and it's God. That's okay with me. I just know it's God, but I don't need to understand how.
One of my favorite passages is in Psalms and David. He's like, Lord, don't give me any thoughts that are too lofty for me. I love that. That's kind of my go-to.
That's so good.
I don't
That's
get
humbleness right there.
I don't get it. Don't give me any thoughts that are too lofty. Because like you said, you start justifying, rationalizing, asking those things, and you think you know it. Like you said, the ego. So I love that. So sorry, John, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So just to conclude this, if you're watching this, you go, well, how do I practice this? Look at anywhere in your life where you're in a decision or you're contemplating one, and it's all based off your headstrong sensing, making sense of it. If you have to justify it, you should question, is this really what's right? Is this God? Because God doesn't sell you. God's not a salesman. Only the ego is. Only the ego will sell you because it doesn't have you already. So it has to sell you. But God already has you. God doesn't have to sell you. God's just sitting there like, hey, I'm here whenever you want to realize I'm here. Whenever you want. It's an invitation. God never, ever, a few times in history, he has come in and made prophets. I mean, like, he's quite literally. And, that happens. If he wants to, he just comes and picks someone, plucks them out. And he goes, you're doing this. It's like, oh, no. But everyone else, it's an invitation. And it might take several lifetimes. And this is part of my own understandings and studies. It might take several lifetimes to get to a spiritual place in your soul where you're ready to accept the invitation. For me, I feel like this is my lifetime. It feels like that way, So don't, for me, it saved me out of a lot of relationships. Actually, this might end some relationships, but that's okay. You shouldn't be afraid of losing what's not meant for you. I mean, that's the biggest thing I've learned from surrendering. If you're justifying your relationship, if the reason why you're with the person you're with is because, oh, look at all these great reasons, doesn't mean you can't have reasons why you love them. But if that's the reason you have to convince yourself why you love them, it means you don't. It means you're trying to find reasons to cover up the feeling of I don't actually know in my heart that you're the person or that this is right. Same with business, by the way. Everyone's miserable, but they're too attached to the money. They can't question it, even though in their heart they're like, something doesn't feel right. That was my struggle. Finally, I let it go, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was right. It's not that I was right, but like I already knew. It just took me a while. I was stubborn. It took me a while to really surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, those are some really powerful insights today, Armin. I greatly appreciate you coming on and dropping that wisdom that you've been soul searching in the past few, 300 and was it 6 days? Is it you
They're
said?
2 days now today.
302 days, man. That's impressive. That's awesome. So for anyone who wants to follow along with your journey right now, where can they reach out and follow you?
Instagram. It's just my first name, like Armin Shafee, but the in the beginning. I wish I changed that, but I made it when I was the guy. So I made the Armin Shafee. I guess it's too late. But yeah, that's my Instagram, and I'm actually active on that. I don't have like a business. It's not like a company, so it's me and my chats. I love talking to people all the time.
That's awesome. Well,
Love it.
again, thank you so
Appreciate
much for your time today and your wisdom. This has been great.
Thanks, Armin.
Thank you for having me.